Well, really, when I was around 16, you try all the different subjects at school, and I really loved media studies, where you put together videos, and I made some really horrendous, music videos and things that I hope no one ever sees. But I just really loved it, and I wanted to be a director. And then in university, I guess I started to, everyone wanted to be a director. So I am quite organized. So I started to produce, and that was 20 years ago. And this is the first film I've directed. I've produced dramatic shorts and documentaries, done a half-hour documentary, and I've also worked a lot in the sort of production management space. I saw the theatre shows of the Last Great Hunt team years and years ago, about 10 years ago, and I just thought they were magic. They had this sort of childlike wonder for adults, and I thought it was amazing. I saw one show and then I saw another show, and I thought, these guys are going to do something amazing. They're just incredibly imaginative on an international scale. So I sat down with them and they said, we're not interesting enough. But I didn't agree with them, and they agreed that I could follow them around. And yeah, nothing could have been further from the truth. They are extremely interesting creatives. They make world-class work, and they're from sleepy little Perth, Australia. And yeah, they're hopefully lots of people around the world can see their beautiful theatre shows now. I didn't know them very well. I had met them before, but yeah, they were friends of friends, so I could make a connection that way. And yeah, when we met in the building that they ended up 8 years later putting on the show Lenore the Rain. Just coincidentally, that's where it all started, and that's where it all finished as well. In 2013, I started to film them. My husband at the time, Michael McLean, was filming it because I didn't know how to use a camera then myself. So then he started to get to know them over the years, and they ended up hiring him as the production manager into the film, into their theatre show, Lenore. So he's actually in the film now. He's the guy saying, oh, there's this many scenes left to do, and we've only done 4 so far. And, telling everyone how much they have to do and how little time they have to do it. Michael, when he started working, I had to learn how to use the camera and learn to edit. And then I just started to be kind of the filmmaker, and have friends come and help me when I needed a bit more fancy cinematography or a sound person. I'd get people along for key scenes. But yeah, it was 8 years since 2013 until I edited it with an editor. I would try to keep up to date with what they were doing and pick and choose times to go and see them. And so it would usually be a few weeks of filming every few days, and then maybe a few months, sometimes even more than a year between filming them. And they were very open and happy for me to come along. They were very generous with their time, and I became sort of part of the furniture in the room, I think, in the creative space. Two of the most challenging things were probably that over 8 years, I collected what my editor, Chris Trapp, worked out to be 163 hours of footage. We had to trim that down into an interesting and entertaining 1 hour film. We only had 4 months to do that. So it was a real challenge, and we worked really hard on that. And then also if you've seen the final scene of Lenore the Rain, when the cameras are breaking and they're in the theater and they're pulling it all together, I mean, that's the show I'd been following for 8 years. But 3 months before that was all happening, I'd had a baby, my first baby. And so she would only breastfeed too. So I had to bring her along with me and film. But luckily I had her grandmothers there who would take turns in walking her around in the pram and then bring her back to me as soon as she needed milk. So I had to stop filming and feed her. Everything was just so stressful for the team. They were also waiting on music rights. So they had to change songs really at the last minute, which you see a little bit of in the film, but there's a lot of that that's not in the final cut of the film. And what was really challenging is some of the artists were, you know, really famous artists. You can get theatrical rights easier than you can get film rights to put the music into the film. So they used quite famous music that they had a theatrical license to use, like Phil Collins, for example, Stevie Nicks, for example. And I had to then transpose other music on top so that because I couldn't afford the rights to those songs on our small documentary budget. And it was quite tricky because then I had to dub over ADR of them then speaking over the music that I'd transposed instead of the famous music that was being played in the theater all the time. So yeah, that was a real challenge as well. Yes, they are. In Perth, in Western Australia, we were closed to the rest of the world very strictly for 2 years. So COVID was not here at all. But when we had even one case of COVID, the whole city would go into lockdown. So one of their more recent shows called Whistleblower, which you see at the end in the last 2 minutes, the bigger show, while they were making that, they had to go into lockdown for 5 days and work like this over Zoom with each other with a big team of, 20 people. And then they ended up getting the show up, but it was also very stressful for them. I have all that footage too. I could have made a sequel, but I don't think I will. It was pretty disruptive, and they are now performing again as normal, making new work. There's a big team at The Last Great Hunt, and they take turns at being the creative lead. But those shows featured in the documentary where Tim and Ariel are the leads generally, or or Tim in particular was the creative lead on Lenore during the documentary. And that show will maybe go to the east coast of Australia next year and be put up again. And then Whistleblower, I believe, will go to the east coast as well at some point, now that COVID is settling down for now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, continues to do so. They would love to perform internationally. I have a real dream specifically to go to Iceland because of the language in the film. And also we use a song that we licensed from Olafur Arnalds, who's an incredible Icelandic composer that I'm a big fan of. There's an amazing opera house, I think it's called Harpa in Reykjavik. And I'd love them to take Lenore there and to show the film there. I'd also love to come to Portland and with the show as well. If there's an audience who'd love to see the film, write to The Last Great Hunt Theatre Company or follow them online and ask, try to get them to perform that amazing show in Portland, because they love to travel internationally, but obviously that's been really challenging during the travel restrictions timing that we've had. I'd love them to feel a real emotive, highs and lows as they go through and really enjoy that aspect. But what I'd like them to take away from the project is to feel inspired and creative. And I hope that it enables them to go forward and play and collaborate, whether or not you work in a creative industry or not. I think that every human is creative in some way, and they have different ways of expressing that. So maybe you're a painter, or you can bring that play and collaboration into your garden, or you can bring it into your cooking, in your everyday life, to just bring more joy into your everyday, and perhaps even make something really unusual or left of center that this team have discovered that they work in this way. And I'd love other people to discover that too. My friend Miles Knoll, who's a painter, or he's actually a graphic designer, but he's an amazing painter. And he doesn't do painting full time, although I'm sure he'd love to. He watched this film and he said that it made him want to paint more and inspired him. And that was really the highest compliment. And I'd love other people to feel the same way. Yes, I'm working with an artist called Pilar Mata Dupont, who has an Argentinian background, but she's Australian and lives in Rotterdam. We're doing a project. She works in video art. She's very accomplished, but we're trying to get her to work into the narrative space. So we'll next make a short film called La Piedra, and ideally, ultimately, a feature film based on her family story. And I'm also developing a children's show for preschool aged children that has wonderful songs in it. And it's early stages, but it's something I've wanted to do for my whole career, and I hope will take me into the rest of my career. It's called A Tune. Film festivals have been really important in my career. I just, early on when I was doing short films, being able to be accepted and curated into a program, it gives you, not only to the audience, more audience see the film, which is the point of making a film, but also it gives you some credibility in helping you to gain momentum or funding for your next project. And I'm just delighted. Our whole team's thrilled to be in Portland Film Festival with StageChangers. It's the first overseas screening outside of Australia. And we are just, delighted to be a part of it in such a cool city that I've never been to, but was not able to come to this time, but will do one day. Starting out, when you're starting out filmmaking, I just recommend just get your iPhone or whatever tools you have and go with some friends and make films on the weekend. Shoot a scene and cut it together on a Thursday night. Just start to make, because I think that you'll improve all the time, and utilize the creative processes like what you just have seen in StageChangers, The Last Great Hunt. Use this play and collaboration, and that is every creative project. So the more you do it, the better you become, and the sooner you start, the quicker you'll get there. So I'd also recommend, if you're not at film school, or even if you are, there's a lot of great YouTube content online. So one of the cinematographers on this project who shot some of the nicer shots, his name's Lewis Potts, and he is an Australian cinematographer. He's amazing. He does beautiful work, but he also has this incredible YouTube channel, which is hilarious and because he's a cinematographer, it's very beautiful. And they're excellent. So he's only started that recently and it's already gone bananas, I think. So Lewis Potts, I'd recommend that, or things like that if you're interested in filmmaking and wanting to improve.